Sahil hiljo qere shin komon salihonal eshkwas kits in liguankesh arin salinim la chotaba in nakakay sahile chol yoko chikubang yoko chinalebak chirish libarkuan o kachishwanunkil. Hermanas y hermanos, que ajau nuestro Creador nos.
Brothers and sisters, may our blessings of Ahuar come to us. I was only able to open a space for spiritual reflection. We, as indigenous peoples, as Maya people, do that kind of sacred activities many times. For us, it is very important because not everybody is able to do it. Only very few people, very few Nahuatl are able to do this. But now I am allowed to do this because I was asked to, and it is an honor for me to do this here. According to Maya calendar, we are in the Huish. Huish represents for us women, the women of our peoples, the energy of the jaguar, of the tiger. Brothers and sisters from wildlife, they represent our blood, our balance, for our living, for our livelihood. It also represents strength, energy of the women. We are in times of energy, very important for our Nawal, for all the women, and we live in a time where we have 4 stewards of the cosmos, the 4 pillars of our Mayan cosmovision, the stewards, the guardians of our universum. That's the meaning of this time, of this very important day, the Huish in our Mayan calendar. As you may see here, we have a couple of symbols of our reflection of our culture. We have the candles here, we have flowers, fruits, and we have our sacred food. Now I would like to talk about the colors of the candles. we see here. First of all, we have red. The meaning of the color red is the sun rising, the start of a new day, dusk of a new day. It also means blood, our food. We also have yellow. Yellow represents the air we breathe. It also represents our color, the color representation of our indigenous peoples. And that gives us the possibility to reflect about the meaning of this. We also have white here. It represents the wind, ice, the snow. Our countries have very high mountains, very cold, and it represents also the cold, the white candle. And then we have, normally we have black. We don't have black here, but of course there should be also black, darkness. That's the opposite of clarity, represented by white, by the white candle. Each of one of these colors has a meaning, represent us as indigenous peoples. We have different colors. My color, the color of my skin is completely different as the one of the brothers and sisters here, or this brother, or this sister. We have different colors in ourselves. It's not about only about the human beings, but also think about what we represent in our Mother Nature. Blue represents, of course, the sky. When we lit these candles, we give thanks to our Ahau, to the sky, to the creator of the universe, everything that has given to us. When we lit the green candle, we thank to Mother Earth. When we're talking about Mother Earth, we are talking about our mother, Mother Nature, that gives us life, that gives us heat and everything we need in order to be here. Without air, without food, without water, without heat, we cannot live here on Earth. That's the reason why we always give thanks to everybody. That's the reflection we have. We want to say, we cannot live if we don't have territories. As indigenous peoples, we cannot live if the indigenous people are destroyed completely. When our forest is destroyed, if our water sources are destroyed, then we will be destroyed. Our life will be violated. Our rights will be violated. Everything fades away. Everything what we have fades away. That's the reason why it is very important to practice conservation. We were talking about conservation. We heard a lot of presentations about many things, but only one person talked about conservation of natural resources. Everybody was talking about the rights of the indigenous peoples. Everybody was talking about the importance of the rights of indigenous people. They were talking about policies supporting the indigenous peoples. But it is also important to think about the conservation of the lives of the indigenous peoples, because the life of indigenous people depends on the life of nature. I could talk for hours here, but now I would like to open the second phase of our meeting, of our event, lighting up the candles. And when I light up the candles, then we will be thinking, reflecting about the successful meeting we are having for today and for tomorrow. And that's a sign, that's what we want to achieve. We have to think together. We have to put our hands together to raise our voices in order to support everybody fighting for their rights, because otherwise we will experience the complete destroy of Mother Nature. It's important to practice conservation of Mother Nature, human beings, and everybody. Please, the representatives from the different countries, if they are so kind to support us, lighting up the candles. First of all, red. Thank you. Thank you to Mother Nature. Thank you to Mother Earth. Give us support, give us energy for today, each of one in his own language, according to the believings. Thank you for everybody. Now,
Salihona la inakwa nakatsama shaku tishkunil libarkwang nakakake nakchakui chasach kama pilao nako mushuk nako sach salibe libarkwang nakawak amopi bantio shake lihonal bantio shake nakla atakwa nako akil nako atenka nakakele kanalem nakakele kakaush utingka nako kanap kahunes Cuanco sa comoni larin, rich bene lihunhung, chitanamit lihunhung, chipoyanam, lihunhung, chiish lihunhung, chikin, chaketa shak le kakawilal, chaketa shak chishkunil kekwa, muakana tashak, chakele kanalep, chakele kakaush, utlikaush leha in, chihulak tashak, barki tento ten hulak, utepli neke holoming, utepli neke jelirish, barkwang chishkunil, li chakrab, li nalep, akwa, Taket tashak li auslep sa tochep liran renak teruk tashak spanun kil chichabil li chakrak but teruk tashak spanun kil li angel chokre la haral choch li kwang sa rasa link na koruhang kulung link na koruhang hulak barkirah tento to hulak chakol rish li kasutam chakol rish li huhung chitenamit chakil li chahkilal li railal rikenela kolala kahol antiosh kakwa antiosh ake chakil chuatenka antiosh kwa Gracias, hermano. Gracias. Muchas gracias. Gracias. Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Yad eshike, shejanin yazien shia, tinanjanin shlento todachini bashishchin. My people are the Beleshglai, Nahoka'a Diendine, are the five-fingered, holy earth surface people. We, the Dene, are the image of our ancestors, and we are created in connection with all creation. Through songs and prayers, the earth and universe embody thinking. Water and the sacred mountains embody planning. Air and vegetation embody life. Fire, light, and offering sites of our sacred stones embody wisdom. These are the fundamental tenets established. Thinking is the foundation of planning. Life is the foundation of wisdom. Upon our creation, these were instituted within us, and we embody them. Accordingly, we are identified by our Dene name, our clan, our language, our lifeway, our shadow, our footprints. Therefore, we were called the Holy Earth Surface people. From here, growth began and the journey proceeds. Different thinking, planning, lifeways, languages, beliefs, and laws appear among us. But the fundamental laws placed by the holy people remain unchanged. Hence, as we were created with living soul, we remain Dene, our human beings, forever. This is our fundamental law. I remember the day I first read these words. It was 2007, and I was in my third year of undergrad in an Ivy League institution, struggling with an enormous sense of urgency to do something about the ever-present struggle of our people, and feeling the hopelessness of being forced to navigate an institution that, although it was tasked to take care of my professional development, it was so far from the level of consciousness that was necessary to nurture the transformative change needed by our generation and every generation after us. But I am fortunate to come from a place where the footprints of my ancestors are tied to the landscape, where every grain of soil, every plant, every body of water, every wind pattern, and the eternal pathway of the sun and the moon across our ecosystems have been tied to the stories of the creation of my people. This is our understanding of landscapes, and it is this inherent and ancestral knowledge that ties our modern struggles to something deeper than achieving equality and inclusiveness in an imperfect man-made system and institutions that do not understand the sacred and inherent value of the universe. I'm indebted to my elders, my mentors, my parents, who retrained me through their actions, imparting upon me a real education, and an education not predicated on industrialized development, commodification of nature, commodification of human worth, and preparation for inevitable and an inescapable participation in a system of capitalism founded upon values of colonial conquests, white supremacy, and patriarchy. Dene natural law declares and teaches that the four sacred elements of life, air, light, and fire, water and earth and pollen, in all their forms must be respected, honored, and protected, for they sustain life. And the six sacred mountains and all the attendant mountains must be respected, honored, and protected, for they, as leaders, are the foundation of our nation. All creation, from Mother Earth and Father Sky to the animals, those who live in water, those who fly and plant life, have their own laws and have rights and freedom to exist. And the Dene and all human beings have a sacred obligation and duty to respect, preserve, and protect all that was provided, for we were designated as the steward of these relatives through our use of the sacred gifts of language and thinking. Mother Earth and Father Sky are a part of us as the Dene, and the Dene are part of Mother Earth and Father Sky. The Dene must treat this sacred bond with love and respect without exerting dominance, for we do not own our mother or our father. It is the duty and responsibility of the human beings to protect and preserve the beauty of the natural world for future generations. To take a rights-based approach to landscape development, preservation, conservation, and protection means restoring our understanding to these sacred responsibilities. But in doing this work, we all face the same obstacles. For all usually has codified these beautiful values and protocols in our own Navajo Nation laws. The legacy of colonization and the inherent disconnection of all major institutions from this fundamental understanding makes exercising these responsibilities a continual challenge, and in some cases an actual crime. We all must do the work to retrain our minds, decolonize our consciousness, and dismantle all institutions of inequality. And may we continue to grow this global community in commitment to these tasks before it's too late. Ahihat.
Buenas tardes a todos y todas.
Good afternoon to everyone here. My name is Francais. I'm an indigenous person from the town of Pare in the Brazilian Amazon. I am 27 years old, graduated in nursing from the University of Brasilia, and I'm finishing my master's degree in development, society, and international cooperation. I am also part of the Indigenous Youth Network of Brazil, and here I am also member of this identity. We're not only an organization We are advocates in the world. I have worked with issues of environmental justice and impacts on the health of indigenous peoples with special attention to Brazil. I could use this space to talk about my individual activities, but in the context we are living in Brazil, it is necessary to promote the defense of our collective rights. When we mention dualism between traditionalism and modern times, we need to take care what our indigenous peoples have lived through, genocide and other different events. We as indigenous peoples have been resisting in our process of identity, culture, and land. But we see that there are many consumption acceleration models, and this is affected by our social democratic uses and changes in the use of the territory, so that we have more pressure upon natural resources. In the last couple of years, Latin America has been through extreme changes in the infrastructure of states, but also in public policies. We have had the impacts on agreements for the Amazonian protection. The Amazonian protection has suffered numerous attacks, such as unbridled deforestation, the exploitation of illegal mining, the implementation of mega projects for development, and in most cases with the support of states. And in these processes, we indigenous peoples have been the main victims of these new models of economic development. All this situation is not new. However, there is no information on the real effects on the health of the indigenous peoples, both the socio-ethnic and cultural impacts, as well as the impacts on our structures of beliefs and our cosmogonic visions. The Amazon is about to reach irreversible levels of deforestation, a process that has been repeating itself through the mandates of different governments in my country, and that has identified with the Bolsonaro government, violating international treaties and placing the environmental agenda as an ideological agenda. We, the indigenous peoples of Brazil, are suffering the worst attack on the rights of indigenous peoples. We're practically living a new process of colonization, where we're limited in our rights of self-determination and real control over our lands and territories. We do not want more hydroelectric plants in the Juruvena River Basin. We do not support the Barão do Rio Branco program and other major development projects in the territories of indigenous peoples. We're against the creation of the nuclear power plant in the Northwest region. And we no longer want the reproductive rights of indigenous women to be violated by the excessive use of toxic waste and the contamination of mercury in our territories that ends up being the contamination of our bodies. As indigenous youth, we understand that our mission in international spaces such as this is to contribute to the unity, strengthening, and visibility of what is happening at the local level, raise awareness of regional issues, generate recommendations and collective strategies, and thus be able to participate effectively in the decision-making processes that affect our communities, regions, or countries, to make us listen in a single collective voice that carries the message of all our peoples. The young indigenous people are responsible for being the guardians of the landscapes, which for us is Mother Earth, in order to guarantee the quality of air, of the land, the water, for the grandchildren and granddaughters of the whole society. For indigenous youth, the transmission of indigenous knowledge is a central element for empowerment. Indigenous peoples are not separated from the earth, and an attack on Mother Earth is an attack on the preservation of this knowledge, cultural identity, and spiritual of our peoples. Therefore, we ask for the real participation of indigenous peoples as means of mitigating climate change. The survival of our languages, our traditional knowledge, is a fundamental part for the integral development of communities around the world. Indigenous peoples are guardians of Mother Earth and defenders of life. We have taking care of nature, its landscapes, our territories since immemorial time. And we believe that we do not need to change the climate. We need to change the system to a more inclusive system where we're recognized for our contributions to national development, to the care of the environment, to the construction of more inclusive citizenships, and to get involved as active actors and not as mere subjects of development. Stop climate changes. They hurt our existence. We will resist. Indigenous youth present. Thank you very much.
I am Gideon Sanago, a Maasai pastoralist from Tanzania. I was born and raised in the Maasai land in northern part of Tanzania. I've been herding cows, goats, and sheep in the Maasai territory. For us, ecosystem-based approach is at a head of indigenous Maasai pastoralists' cosmovision of land use in East Africa. Land is held, managed, and utilized collectively, specifically to facilitate coordination of the landscape approaches employed. As pastoralists, we possess an integrated view of nature and people. Maasai pastoralist grazing lands are organized into dry season and wet season grazing, also organized into a natural salt lick areas, and also organized to avoid disease-prone areas at specific times of the year. The ecosystem-based approach is employed to maximize the benefit of interdependence and complementarity of the diverse ecosystem. Livestock and people's mobility is a key adaptation strategy to help access the pasture, water, and other rangeland resources that are scarce in the space and time. Because of the indigenous ecosystem landscape-based approach witnessed in the pastoral rangeland of East Africa, a rich diversity of flora and fauna thrives. These landscapes have been often attracted conservation and tourism enterprises, developers. The state and private sector cooperate have naively conceptualized the open pastoral lands as a waste and idle land. As pasture is understood as a resource and indigenous knowledge is discarded and devalued. Our contention is that in coming to undertake conservation enterprises and other development initiatives in our land, the pre-existing thrice landscape based pastoralist rights and practices must not be compromised as if often the case. Our view as indigenous people, therefore, is that we represent the future you aspire to attain in the landscape-based approach. Should you therefore need practical lessons and the landscape-based approaches, we invite you to collaborate and dialogue with us in a good faith to benefit from the collective wisdom of indigenous knowledge system as you share your and science. Ashenaleng, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Gennady. I live in Russia, Arctic. Я родился в 1962 году в семье оленеводов. И жил среди оленеводов. Я окончил среднюю школу в городе Дудинка, после окончил училище в селе Менгерла Красноярского края, а служил в советской армии. Работал трактористом в поселке Устьяван. После жители поселка избрали меня председателем поселка Устьяван. Потом я переехал в город Дудинка, окончил Государственный социальный университет. Сейчас являюсь членом и председателем семейной родовой общины коренных малочисленных народов Долган-Амяксин. Кроме того, избран президентом местной ассоциации общественных объединений коренных малочисленных народов Севера Таймыра. Осуществляю юридическую помощь более 110 общин. и союз долган, ненцев, ганасан и венков, энцев, решая хозяйственные и иные проблемы общин, для которых оленеводство, охота и рыбалка, в том числе реализация законно добытой продукции, является основой существования. В 2004 году общины произвели отстрел дикого северного оленя для собственных нужд. Но местная прокуратура и суд посчитали, что охота была незаконной, так как право на охоту в целях обеспечения ведения традиционного образа жизни и осуществления традиционной хозяйственной деятельности в пределах нормативно установленных лимитов для удовлетворения личных нужд не может быть передано одними членами общин другими членами общин. Приговором суда Красноярского края я был признан виновным. Ну, тут юридические нормативные документы перечислять не буду, нет смысла. Распоряжение правительства Таймыр признан территорией проживанием коренных малочисленных народов Севера. И там, где мы можем свободно вести традиционный вид охоты. Правительство Красноярского края установило для нас лимит добычи на одного человека 8 оленей на одного человека в год. Эти все события очень сильно сказались на мне и на моих общин. Помню, мама говорила мне, что в нашей стране есть бумага, которая защищает народ. Это Конституция России. Изучи ее и поможешь народу, говорила она мне, что я делал и делаю всю сознательную жизнь. Я настоял на невиновности общин, и меня лично, и довел дело до Конституционного суда России, который признал статью 19 Федерального закона об охоте законной. Так, по своему конституционному правовому смыслу в системе действующего правового регулирования, она предполагает, что поскольку лицом, которое имеет право пользования объектами животного мира в пределах установленных лимитов использования объектов животного мира для удовлетворения личных нужд является, каждый член общины может добыть это, вне зависимости от наличия у него статуса охотника. В этом случае, если охота в целях обеспечения ведения традиционного образа жизни и осуществления традиционной хозяйственной деятельности осуществляется такой общиной, члены этой общины вправе поручить одному или нескольким членам, имеющих статус охотника, добычи охотничьих ресурсов в объеме, не превышающем сумму, превосходящую на каждого члена общины лимитов использования объектов животного мира для удовлетворения личных нужд. Таким образом, Конституционный суд России встал на сторону общин. И теперь я подал в Верховный суд России о пересмотре моего дела. Я защитил действия федеральных законов в регионе, где ведут свою деятельность общины и союзы коренных малочисленных народов Севера, и защитил их права в соответствии с конституционным и международным правом гарантии прав коренных малочисленных народов, которые раскрываются в системе действующего правового регулирования и функциональных целевых толкований законов России и международного права коренных народов. Спасибо.
Kia ora katoa katoa toa. My name is Charlie Mclean. I'm from an island called Rarotonga, located in the Cook Islands. A descendant from the Ngāti Maote and Ngāti Tiakareva lineage. I was fortunate enough to have been raised by my grandparents, who passed down stories of our culture, genealogical and spiritual connections to the land. My grandmother always reminded me that we don't own the land, we are only the caretakers, and have responsibility to protect our ancestral grounds, communal resources, and environments for future generations. This has played a pivotal role in building the character I am today. I am honoured and very grateful to stand before you at this time to share with you my story. My ancestors were sea voyagers that sailed through the Pacific Ocean in search of land, undaunted by the rough seas. Like an artist looking at his masterpiece, they sought guidance from their spiritual ancestors and looked to the stars to map their journey to find the islands that make up the Cook Islands, nestled in the southeast Pacific of Oceania. This place is my home. Our forefathers pre-colonization lived a simple, sustainable lifestyle, growing their own food and using natural resources from the land to build their homes. They planted by the moon, growing root crops such as taro, sweet potato, and arrowroot, using natural fertilizers. They practiced natural medicines using plants, and they fished the reefs freely without depleting the lagoon, observing the customary practice called daraui. Daraui is a valuable custom of special significance in our culture. Daraui is the traditional method and practice for the conservation and preservation of any or all resources, whether on land, sea, or air. The marine resources were perceived to be under threat from overharvesting and fishing, pollution, and in more recent times, climate change. The intention of the Rāui was to allow marine species to rejuvenate. This ancient methodology of the Rāui ensures the sustainability of fish stock, seafood, or in any resources that threatens the food security of a community. In 2017, a large-scale marine park within the Cook Islands, covering an area of just under 2 million square kilometres, was legislated under the Marae Moana Act. The vision of Marae Moana is our Marae Moana, our nourishing source of life, respected, cared for, and used wisely today and the generations to come. It provides a broad framework within which to plan the conservation and sustainable use of our ocean resources. This includes protection of large areas of open ocean and deep ocean. It allows for the protection of large areas that cover a species of life cycle. Marae Moana is also intended to provide a support at the smaller scale, including support for coastal, traditional marine protected areas or marine reserves. Tourism has become one of the most important economic activities in the Pacific Islands. For Cook Islanders, tourism is our largest income earner. As a result of tourism, our communities, environments, traditions, social structures, and cultural practices are faced with many challenges. One of the main challenges is waste management. Rarotonga has only an area of 67.19 kilometres, that's 26 square miles, already limited with land space due to development of tourism accommodation and related industries. Our landfill is reaching its maximum capacity and the island is running out of space. For instance, the construction of beachfront houses and accommodations leads to runoffs from the septic tanks, contaminating not only our lagoon, but also our main source of protein, our seafood. We can no longer fish within the reefs as the risk of ciguatera poisoning is very high. Two, the buildings of houses and accommodations, leftover resources. There's no area in the landfill, so what do? They can't chuck it in the rubbish, they put it in containers and ship it overseas. Majority of the people do not think about where it goes, and they don't care. 3, use of land once used for agriculture, now being used to build accommodation. This results as a backlog of water, creating flooding of adjacent and adjoining properties. We have a saying in the Cook Islands. It goes, "No building is to be taller than a coconut tree." This is the truth. This is a principle that guides local constructions and acts as a security measure to prevent chain resorts and companies from dominating the tourism industry. We are forced with a catch-22. While our people are benefiting from the tourism industry, whilst our people are benefiting from the increase in the tourism economy, our environment is suffering the consequences. We are torn between the needs of our people and the needs of our land. As a nation, many Cook Islanders are reverting back to traditional practices, aligning ourselves again with our ancestors' way of life, navigating by the stars, harvesting by the moon, and utilising our natural products to feed our families. So I say again, we don't own the land, we are only the caretakers. As Indigenous people, I believe we hold the key solution to preserve and protect our ancestral grounds, communal resources and environments for future generations. Me taki mata kia manuia.
Good afternoon, friends. Our true story of rights and struggles of the forest community, the indigenous people, and the forests starts the day when their traditional and customary rights are taken away, snatched, trampled upon, and violated. As it happened in my country more than 200 years back by the colonial powers. A protracted struggle of more than 200 years. Yes, we got a piece of legislation called the Forest Rights Act. A legislation which was in the Indian Parliament called as a landmark legislation which undid the historic injustice done to the forest people. A legislation which not only gives rights over your habitat or agricultural land, but provides collective rights over your resources, and top of it, your right to govern your forest resources. But then, we do have to defend those rights. The story starts again. You are being provided with rights, and from the day onwards, you then further struggle to defend your rights. That has happened as the rate of this year, 13th of February, the Supreme Court of India, by an order in a case filed by a couple of conservation NGOs and the ex-Indian Forest Service officers, directed the federal governments to evict more than 10 million forest dwellers from the Indian forests. This is the case which was filed challenging the constitutional validity of the Forest Rights Act, a case where the conservation NGOs and the ex-Indian Forest Service officers are now saying that the claims of the recording of rights of more than 10 million forest dwellers are false. They have to be evicted. The Forest Rights Act, which was passed in 2005 and 2006, finally enacted after 11 years, has only been able to record rights of less than 1/3 of the potential rights holders. The forest bureaucracy, the ministerial bureaucracy, the local administration have all ganged up together during the last decade to see that this act is not being implemented. The rights cannot be recorded. The Indian forest bureaucracy, which was formed in 1865 during the colonial period, still thinks that they are the lord of the Indian forests and they have the only right to administer Indian forests. Today, the Forest Rights Act gives power to govern our own resources, our own villages, our own forests. That right is not being recognized. Today, when India talks of reducing deforestation, talks of carbon sequestration, 170,000 hectares of forest land in central India is given to coal mining. The village councils has the power not to give consent to diversion or deforestation of forest land. Those powers are not even considered. They are threatened to give a consent to diversion of those forest land. Today, the village council's role are being undermined. Why? Because deforestation in India today provides money to the forest department. We have an internal offset system by which if forest is being diverted for industrial projects, non-forestry projects, the promoter companies pays money to the government. At this point of time, the Indian government, the forest department, has more than $15 billion in that kitty, that offset fund. That is the reason the Forest Rights Act is being undermined. That is the reason the village councils, our Gram Sabhas, are not being allowed to play their role. That is the reason they are not willing to implement the act. And that is the reason today more than 10 million people are on the verge of eviction. And all this is happening within a period when we say that India is in the process of RED plus readiness stage. How is it possible? You can not only state on the paper that the Forest Rights Act acts as a safeguard, but that has to happen. The RED Plus is designed to accommodate a neoliberal market system. Yet we are told we need deep transformational and systemic change to stay under 1.5 degrees. How can we change the system when the focus is market-based, false solutions, which accommodates the very system that has caused the problem? The rights and entitles, the governance of the communities, of the indigenous people, are not being even respected, recognized, and recorded. Today it seems that when we talk, when we have a discourse linking rights with conservation, the Indian Forestry Administration seems to be far away from this discourse. It's the same old colonial mentality that we are seeing, and the wish, their great wish, to lord over the forests. But as I said, the struggle doesn't end here. The struggle continues to defend those rights. As in Hindi, they say, Hamara gaon, Hamara jungle, Hamara Raj. Translated to English, it says, our forests, our village, our rule, our Gram Sabha. Thanks. Johar.
All right. Unusakut, Candace Peterson Nguyunga, ama Nunavut Mutau Yunga. Good afternoon, my name is Candace Peterson and I'm from the Canadian Arctic. So when people think of the Arctic, often the words barren, harsh, and hostile come to mind. But in fact, the Arctic is a beautiful, vibrant place that is full of life and always changing. We do get summers, believe it or not. They might not be the warmest summers, but the snow does melt. The land and the environment shape us as Inuit. Our clothing, our food, our traditions and customs are all shaped by our land and environment. Inuit have always had a connection to the land based on knowledge and respect. Despite many things threatening to disrupt this connection, we are resilient. Inuit know the land. We have an in-depth, intimate knowledge of our homelands that is not yet fully recognized. Take the example for the search of the Franklin expedition ships, the HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror. The search of these ships occurred every summer for years, and in 2016, the Terror was discovered only when Inuit testimony was taken into account about the locations and Inuit knowledge was recognized. Another example of recognition of Inuit and other Indigenous people knowledge is important is the fight against this climate crisis. For example, earlier today I presented about the Siku app. The Siku means sea ice, and that this app was created for Inuit by Inuit to address this crisis and promote adaptation and safer hunting and traveling. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. So I grew up in Iqaluit, Nunavut, which for those of you who don't know what that is 2,100 kilometers north of Ottawa. And then just a little over 4 years ago, I moved to Cambridge Bay, which is about 1,800 kilometers north of Edmonton. And Cambridge Bay and Iqaluit are quite different. Actually, all regions in the Arctic and all communities are different, all unique and all beautiful. And I grew up camping and hunting with my family. For weeks at a time, we'd go off in our boat, take our tent, and go clam digging, berry picking, caribou hunting, and a lot of fishing. At a young age, I experienced the healing powers of the land that provides to us, especially considering the history of Inuit being taken from the land, forced to go to residential schools, and stand by as our dog teams were being slaughtered, and then settle into towns, settle into what we now call towns. I came to better understand this as I grew up learning about my history and spent more time on the land. I love to go hunting. Hunting is an important part in my life. Being on the land is what I spend my time, energy, and money on. Whether it's going off on my snowmobile, all-terrain vehicle, to go out hunting or fishing, or just for the sake of being on the land. I love to hear the migratory birds in between the springtime and the fall time, and it brings me peace. Hunting is also my right. Article 5 of the Nunavut Land Claims Agreement, Inuit fought very hard for the land claims agreement, and we will continue to do so. Like how in Clyde River, the community of Clyde River has won a court case against the Supreme Court, against the National Energy Board, who did not consult Inuit properly to conduct seismic testing near Clyde River. I will always use my voice and exercise my right to protect our Arctic landscape and ensure future generations can enjoy being hunting on land as I have done so. Thank you.